Last week we talked about the fact that even though every hotel room is in a different location, it is still in some weird way the same place, and that can affect who you feel like you are in it. Let's see what you had to say. All the letters from the subreddit is, as it turns out, someone who builds and draws hotels for a living, so this is an amazing perspective to have, and they talk about this idea that there are things that hotels have to do in order for us to recognize them as hotels, that there is a certain amount of differentiation between the design and layout of hotel rooms, but that it can't stray too far from this central thing, because then our expectation or our idea of how to use it as a space will be completely thrown off, and sort of culminates in this great idea that, you know, hotels want you to make yourself at home, want you to be comfortable, but not too comfortable. And I think that this gets back to this idea that a hotel is in some way an institution, and that it's more or less clinical depending upon which hotel we're talking about, but that they all have that kind of that sameness. And I think that this is a great comment to kind of keep in mind for the rest of the comment section as we talk about things like Airbnb or dorm rooms, which I think also really sort of touch on this architectural perspective. But yeah, this was an awesome comment. Speakerphone's the seventh. When I was a kid, as I think a lot of kids do, I would travel with these like sticker sheets, sticker books, and there were a couple hotels that I stayed in several times with my parents, most notably ones in Orlando in Florida, and I actually started leaving some stickers on the underside of some open drawers in the dressers in some hotel rooms to try to figure out whether or not I had been there. Like I was planning that, like, oh, we'll probably come back here, I'll leave a sticker here to tell whether or not we've been in this room before. And I never came across one, but I always wondered if anybody else did. So if you find like Ninja Turtle stickers from the early 90s in the underside of a dresser drawer in Orlando, Florida, that's me. Peter Fox talks about how, though hotel rooms might have similar purposes, it is a bit of a stretch to say that they are all the same place, especially given that there are many individual experiences that one can have of a hotel room, thus making them in some way different spaces, different places. And I think that this is a fair comment, but I think what I would respond to, and the thing I was kind of trying to get at, is whether or not there is something about the hotel room enabling that kind of differing experience for different people in a standard way across all hotel rooms makes them all the same space in some way. I know that's a couple steps, but and might not ultimately be a unique thing for just hotel rooms, which I'm perfectly fine with. Toranosuke writes a really insightful comment about the hotel room being some kind of sovereign space, that when you enter into your hotel room, you are not in the locality that you are in, you're in some sort of unaffiliated zone. And I think that this rings really true for me, that, you know, when I'm in places that I'm really unfamiliar with, there is this idea of the hotel room being a sanctuary of getting away from the stress of not knowing the language, of not knowing where to go, not knowing where things are, and I wonder if if there's a kind of taxonomy of different hotel rooms, that there is the international hotel room for the international traveler in an unfamiliar place, as opposed to the conference hotel room, and those two things serve very different purposes, and is maybe an additional layer of this conversation. So yeah, this is a great comment. Links to this one and all the others in the doobly-doo. In the theme of other ideas related to linked non-continuous spaces, Life Happens in MidtownSkyport talk about Terry Pratchett's L space, which is this idea that all libraries are linked, and that you can somehow, there is a metaphysical connection between them. God, I love Terry Pratchett. And Gustavo Rodríguez and Mattia Pizzone talk about Marc Auger's idea of the non-place, which are these places like malls, international airports, and hotels, where, you know, a person kind of becomes something that fulfills the purpose of the space, that a person is meant to move through them, and in moving through them accomplish some kind of goal for the space. And yeah, this is a great idea. Wilker Lucio and a bunch of other people bring up the idea of Airbnb, which sort of complicates this because it collapses a little bit the space between hotel and home. And I would be really curious to hear what people who stay at Airbnb a lot have to say about this. But I think that SciJoy, even even though their comment doesn't call out Airbnb specifically, their comment is sort of related to this, which is that in hotels, there is this really clear set of expectations that you know exactly what to expect and that there is a consistency of experience, whereas Airbnb, it's different for different homes that you're staying at and for different hosts. And that I think this is the thing that is both exciting and a little off-putting for people about Airbnb, that the consistency isn't there, but that maybe regardless of that, you can still attain this sameness across all of your Airbnb experiences. I have only stayed at maybe like 10 Airbnbs, and they do all feel weird. Yeah, I'm gonna think about this some more. The one thing I will say is that it does strike me as very, very strange when I stay at an Airbnb and the host is trying very hard to make their Airbnb seem like a hotel. That seems like it's opposite of what you would want from an Airbnb, but maybe that is what people want. I don't know. Edward Golden talks about how my view of hotels is pretty solipsistic and that it doesn't take into account the larger ecology of the hotel as a business place, as a place where people work, as a place where there are different kinds and types of travel. And I will fully admit and cop to this. Yes, coming at it from a completely subjective, here's my experience of hotel rooms as a person who travels in them for a very, very specific purpose. Yeah. Totally. I don't think that takes away from it. I think that there's plenty of room to talk about those other things, and that I would encourage people who have different experiences of hotel rooms and hotels. Yeah, make some videos. I want to watch them. Madelyn Taylor talks about their experience as a military brat and how even an actual home can have this idea or this feeling of not really arriving, that you are just floating through. And I didn't, as someone who was pretty planted for their childhood, this is not a thing that occurred to me at all and is great and sort of mind-blowing perspective. So yeah, thanks for writing this. Aaron H. Yes, other than putting stickers in them, I try to use the bureaus and actually all furniture in the hotel room as much as I possibly can, if only to, yeah, try to feel some kind of ownership or something over it. But yeah, I unpack and I put my suitcase in the closet like I do when I'm at home. I hang up all of my clothes. I try to move in, which maybe is weird. Robert, so there's a couple reasons. The first is that it's literally my job, and I am very, very lucky that overthinking things is something that I get to do like every day for both fun and to like pay for food that goes in my body. So that is rad as hell. The second is that I get one of the things, I mean, Idea Channel has tons and tons of goals. I want to do many, many things with it. But one of the things that I get really, really excited about doing is deepening your experience of the world. And I think that we have a fair amount of common understanding that it is useful and worthwhile to deepen our experience of media and culture. That's a familiar idea. It's one that's doesn't have as wide a purchase as the understanding that knowing about science or mathematics and all those related things will deepen your experience of the world, but it is one that is familiar. I think that there is less of a widespread understanding that everyday things like hotels, transportation, road trips, manufacturing, design, et cetera, are worthy of critical thinking. They repay deep thought. But I think that they really do, because of the reason that they are everyday things, that you interact with stuff like hotels, you know, probably, if not constantly, then pretty frequently. You interact with technology all the time, and that if you have a deep understanding of those things, if you are able to have critical thought or think deeply about them, then you can have such a deep experience of your everyday life. And man, that is so much fun, and it's really powerful. I promise that with practice, what you perceive as overthinking eventually just becomes thinking. And when that is the case, when you can move through the world and you can have this experience of it where you're just pushing back the layers of things that you think of as being natural or obvious, the world becomes a different place, and it becomes an awesome place. So yeah, that's why I do this.